Well, hi there. Welcome back. This is our 11th video. This is going into week, I think, number 6 now of online learning. I'm glad you guys are bearing in there with me, and hopefully you're watching these videos and learning something or two. Last video, we had left off talking about the war in the Middle East, the war on terror, as far as the aftermath of September 11th, the Al Qaeda and the Taliban, then moving into Iraq and dealing with Saddam Hussein. And like I said at the end of that video, between 2003 and 2006, there's stuff that goes on, but it's nothing too monumental. At least not anything that you guys would be like, oh, I really want to know about that. And so let's move on, right? So, we are going to start talking today about the Great Recession. Now, you've heard about the Great Depression in the 1920s and 30s, but this is in the early 2000s. This was referring to the collapse of the housing market between 2007 and 2009. Now, there was a big ripple effect from this, and we see a lot of people losing jobs, unemployment rates increasing. So we'll take a look at that. So prior to 2007, American households were making a very steady income. And so that means banks were willing to offer home loans to buyers at extremely high interest rates. Now, this pretty much meant you could go to a bank and ask for a home mortgage or a home loan, and if they'd be given to you. Now, interest rate is the money that you pay on top of that. So if you have a 3.4% interest rate, that's pretty good, but that's 3.4% on the total of what your house is worth. But they were starting to give these mortgages at very high interest rates. So 7, 8, 9, 10% interest rates. And people were buying houses that they really couldn't afford. So as interest rates start to rise, people stopped buying new homes. Now this, okay, so people have these houses, they can't afford them, and they're getting kicked out of their houses. Their homes are being foreclosed because they can't afford it. So people stop making new houses because the interest rates are high and people can't afford them, which means construction jobs stop, which means it trickles down the whole middle class. You're seeing a big economic decline in the middle class because of the sudden stop in development. It trickles into a bunch of different professions, and it causes a lot of job loss between 2007 and 2009. The unemployment rate rises and rises. Home loans become pretty much unobtainable or unaffordable, and a lot of people are forced, like I said, to foreclose on their homes, which means give it up to the bank and you don't have a house anymore. Some of your parents may have experienced this. Maybe you experienced this during this time too. In any case, with this recession in 2008, the U.S. labor market lost about 8.4 million jobs. That's 6.1%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. That's a pretty big drop. Um, it began with a $8 trillion housing bubble burst, which means the banks were giving out mortgages to people that couldn't afford to pay, and then they lose their homes. Because when you buy a house, you take out a loan and you can't pay a loan back. So now the banks don't have money to give to the next person. And it just became this big trickle down thing. And it's the no bueno. But led to a lot of consumer cutbacks on spending. People were not buying stuff because they were afraid of losing their money. Which, if you're not spending money in an economy, the economy is going to crash. And we see that now with all this corona stuff, right? People aren't buying stuff. So you're seeing a lot of companies fail because they can't do anything. Pretty much all industries slowed down or collapsed at this time. So actually, there's a kind of interesting timeline and table I would like you guys to look at. If you have your notes out, I'm looking at slide 615, that's 615. And it'll show you the unemployment timeline through 2006, and then again through 2007 to 2013. So in the early 2000s, the American economy was doing really, really well. 4% unemployed, that's pretty good, pretty low. But we start seeing it climb a little bit, and then when 2007, 2008 hit, we start to see, oh no, here we go. So between 2007 and 2013, that's really the time we're going to look at. Now, 2010, it spikes all the way to almost 10%. That's 9.8% unemployed, which is insane. Super high unemployment rate. But it's just something that happens. Now, by 2010, the official end of the recession happened because there were jobs starting to enter back into the market. There were still 5.4 fewer jobs in, when the recession began, but what are you going to do? Now, starting with a 4.9% unemployment rate in January of 2008, they said it reached its peak by 9% in 2010. Pretty good. It's just a lot of people unemployed. Right? So, who's going to save the day, right? Who is going to fix this economic crisis? And we come to the election of 2008. It is between a gentleman by the name of Barack Hussein Obama and John McCain. I don't know his middle name. It was a pretty monumental election. One, because it was who was going to pull us out of the recession, but maybe not more importantly, but very importantly, this would be historical because the two frontrunners of the Democratic ticket were Barack Obama, who's a black guy, and Hillary Clinton, who is a lady. Now, Obama ends up winning the nod from the Democrats and goes on to not only win the primary, but goes on to win the presidency in 2006 because he wins. Sorry, 2008. What am I doing? It's late. Yeah, he smashes McCain. Barack, he wins 365 electoral votes to McCain's 173. That's a 120 electoral vote difference. It's pretty crazy. It is a landslide victory. And he becomes the first African American president of the United States, Mr. Obama. Now we're going to look at some of Obama's policies because this is stuff that impacts you, right? We've talked all about history, and we've looked about all these dead dudes that you really don't care about. But this is interesting because this impacts your life. So we're going to look at pretty much from Obama on a little bit more in depth, especially nowadays. You don't know what happened to my thumb. I off topic. I was building a planter for my wife, and I may or may not have drilled the tip of my thumb off. So it's pretty gross, but that happens. Anyway, back to the important stuff. So Obama has some economic policies. Now, just these are all kind of overreaching, so don't be like, you didn't talk about this. This is a pretty broad statement, right? So Barack Obama's economic policy is really characterized by moderate tax increases on higher income Americans. So if you made more money, you had a higher percentage that you had to pay in taxes. And it was designed to fund his landmark. This is like his baby was the Affordable Care Act. We'll get into that. It also wanted to reduce the federal budget deficit and decrease income inequality. So we had three goals, right? Healthcare for all, balance the budget, and decrease income equality. And if you guys don't know what income equality means, that means there's super rich and there's poor people and there's a big gap between them. That's that. Now, Obama's social policies, he did do a few pretty landmark things, and he did pass federal at least he supported and helped pass federal same-sex marriage. He repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell, passed the Dreamer Bill for illegal immigrant children, and increased the number of refugees by the U.S. by tens of thousands. So those are some of the social things. And We could get in the nuts and bolts of all that stuff, but I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You know what same-sex marriage is. Don't ask, don't tell was if you're in the military, no one's going to ask you if you're gay, and you're not, and then you don't tell anybody you're gay. That's essentially all that is. The Dreamer Bill is kind of a big thing that's allowing for kind of a path to citizenship for kids that were brought here kind of unknowingly, um, illegally. So it kind of gives them a pathway to things. And refugees are people flee their countries under war. So these are all things that you guys hopefully have an idea what they are. Um, Obama on education. Now this impacts you because after all, this is education. He passed something called Race to the Top. Um, there was a $4.35 billion United States Department of Education grant to help really spur and innovate reforms in state and local K through 12 education. So if you are going to do this race to the top, you are going to get more money. So states started competing for grants, and they were awarded points essentially for enacting certain educational policies. So that means instituting performance-based evaluations for teachers and principals, which means the better grades my students get, the more money I would get. So I'm getting paid for performance, which I think is kind of shady, right? Like, who's to say I don't have just a bunch of dumb kids? You're not them, but like I'm gonna lose money because I had a class that didn't want to do anything. That's kind of messed up. Whatever. I'm gonna get in trouble for that. Don't tell your mom. Anyway, teachers and principals are gonna be based off a bunch of different measures as far as effectiveness. Um, and you guys really don't need to know all this stuff that people look at us for. The country is going to adopt common standards by taking on the previous administration's education standards called Common Core. Um, they're not necessarily required, but it's where a lot of people used. So we actually have new standards now, which you guys are the guinea pigs for, and adopted policies that did not prohibit the expansion of high quality charter schools. Hmm. So that's just charter schools. Charter schools are relatively privately funded. There are state charter schools that they get state money from the state, but again, this is all stuff that you guys really don't care about. Now, Obama, like I said, he was doing things people thought were good. Some people were like, but most people were like, this is pretty good. Now, what happened, and this is kind of important in his presidency, in 2011, they done killed Osama bin Laden. The guy who blew up the Twin Towers, he dead. They found him. SEAL Team 6 came into a compound. They found him. They done killed him. Pretty awesome. And Obama can definitely hang his hat on that because that is dopeness. Um, cool. So all this is going on. So Obama's doing some stuff politically. Takes down Osama bin Laden. Now there's something that's really interesting, and this comes up in the news a lot. And we're getting into more modern things. This particular event is going to happen on September 11th, 2012. So, what was that? 11 years after the other September 11th? So there's a group, a terrorist organization called NRL Sharia. They attacked an American diplomatic compound, initially killing an American ambassador and 2 CIA contractors. So there were 6 American soldiers stationed at the building, and they were faced down with gunfire from this group, mortars, and they called on the phone like, "Hey, we're being attacked by these people," and they're like, "Hey, help us out." Well, the response they get is stand down. The attackers are left. Sorry, they get a stand down order from the federal government because they say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. The soldiers being attacked essentially called it in and said, "Hey, we're being attacked. Send some help." And so help calls and goes, "Hey, these guys are being attacked. We go do it." And the powers that be say, "No, do not attack. Do not. You stand down." 6 guys are stuck in a building being attacked by a terrorist organization, and no help is coming. So after 13 hours, they are able to defend the building and save the lives of over 30 diplomats. 6 guys took down like a militia, essentially. It's pretty awesome. Like, that's America. America at its finest. Now, there's really no release on why there was a stand down order. There's been no political official that's faced any penalty for not for allowing this to happen, for not allowing them to send help. Well, it's kind of interesting. They did come out. Then Secretary of State Miss Hillary Clinton says, "Oh no, there really wasn't an attack. There was an attack, but it wasn't about anything. It was about a YouTube video, which makes no sense to me, but whatever." Anyway, so we were talking about unemployment as far as the recession goes, and when Obama takes over, the recession is still going on. Now, when Obama takes office, the unemployment rate is at 4.4%, and like I said, it climbs up to 9.3% in 2010. So it's continuing on. Now, as the country is recovering from the 2008 recession, unemployment does reach a low of 7.1% at one point. But that does mean there's 47 million people on food stamps. That's a lot of people. Now, over Obama's 8 years, he would start turning the recession around and would create 11.3 million jobs between 2009 and 2012. So, looking at Obama's legacy, right? What did he do good? Now, you don't have to agree with these. You don't have to be like, he did a great job with these, or I hate this because Obama. Ew. That's not what I'm talking about. These are things that he did that leave a mark on society. Okay, so he rescued the country from the Great Recession. He cut unemployment from about 10% to 4.7% over 6 years. He signed the Affordable Care Act, which provided health care to over 20 million uninsured Americans. He ended the war in Iraq, ordered the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden, passed the $787 billion American Recovery and Reinvestment Act to help economic growth during the Great Recession. He supported the LGBT community in the fight for marriage equality. Commuted the sentences of nearly 1,200 drug offenders, which essentially means they let 1,200 drug offenders out of prison. Helped save the U.S. auto industry. It goes on and see here. Signed the Deferred Action Childhood Arrivals, allowing as many as 5 million people arriving in the United States illegally to avoid any type of deportation. He signed the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, which re-regulated the financial sector, dropped the veteran homelessness rate by 50%, reversed the Bush-era torture policies, increased the Department of Veteran Affairs funding, VA, signed the Credit Card Accountability, Responsibility and Disclosure Act, boosted effective standards for cars, efficiency standards, so better running emissions and whatnot. Improved school nutrition with healthy. You guys love this one. This one I think is funny. So the school nutrition, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. Your food at school is healthier now. Repealed American military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which we talked about. Yeah, There's a few more. I don't know if I want to see everything that blows my mind. You guys go ahead and look at these. It's that slide 625, 626, and 627, just as far as Obama legacies go. And you don't have to like them all. You don't have to. You can. You don't have to. You don't have to like any. It's up to you. Freedom of choice, right? Um, let's see here. I think we're gonna stop there for today. So 20-minute video seems long enough. Hope you guys are having a good time off. Hopefully you guys are staying on top of your things. Hopefully this craziness ends sooner than later, because Lord knows I'm tired. Have a good one, guys. Signing out.